Thank you for watching that at times very harrowing documentary. We now have the opportunity to unpack it not only with Dana Albos, who was part of the filming crew of reporters there in Damascus, but also with international criminal lawyer Clémence Witt, who joins me on set. Thank you for joining us. Dana, I just want to start with you. It's really just a report which chills you to the bones. I can't describe it anywhere else. In terms of the victims themselves, how did you, well, I will call them survivors, of course, because they did survive. And how did you identify them? You said they wanted to come to you, they wanted to speak out, but actually gaining their trust in the first place, that is an entire process that we don't see on camera.
Exactly. It's a very long process and a very long work. We had this sense that these women wanted to break the silence. They wanted to speak up and to talk about what they have been through. It was a very difficult work in order to establish this trust, to establish this relation of trust with women that can speak. Not all of them wanted at the beginning to talk about rape and to get into these horrific details, but at the end, they were all very courageous and they wanted to speak up and to talk about what happened. And because this is a very sensitive topic to talk about, not only in Syrian society, but everywhere, but especially in Syrian society. And because they have this shame and social stigma that follows them even after being out of detention.
And how did you ensure that your report didn't contribute to any escalation in that social stigma? Because, as you say, it is very, very prominent there in the country right now.
Exactly. It was a very sensitive topic, and we had a long talk with these women, and as well at France 24 with our team, we had this talk about how should we treat this subject, how should we as well give these women a space to talk and to open up and to speak about what they have been through. This is why we wanted to talk about psychological aspect as well as justice for these women that are different from one person to another. But they really needed, and they needed a chance to speak up and to tell their stories. And this is why we chose to give them this space in order to speak up and as well to talk about justice, because they are living through wounds and the scars that are still ongoing for them, even if they were liberated and got out from detention years and years ago.
Living a psychological hell every day and having to relive that. Clémence, you in your capacity as an international criminal lawyer, you have many Syrian clients as far as I understand, and you've dealt on a whole range of spectrum of issues with Syrians ranging from the start of the civil war in 2011. If you were speaking to the likes of Asma, Yasmin, Huda, how would you even begin to help them?
Well, I think the first challenge would be access of justice for them, because as we really clearly understand in the documentary, there is this huge social stigma in a very patriarchal society. And so these victims really suffer from double punishment. And even once they're released from these torture centers, they're still suffering and being sometimes unable to build again social and family life. I think one of the main challenge, the other one would be for the new Syrian regime. We should, of course, give them assistance for medical, legal, psychological support and help. We need also to put and to establish judicial process in order to avoid revenge and to ensure the fight against impunity. But in France, and as in many other European countries, we have a specialized unit for 12 years in the Court of Paris dealing with war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity. And with certain legal criteria, the French justice is dealing with many cases related to the Assad regime, related to chemical weapons attacks, attacks against journalists, torture centers. And so I think the most important is the role of civil society to help this victim access to justice. And I think this documentary also reveals how the Syrian civil society is extremely powerful, extremely organized. We've seen many NGOs working on the ground, and with the help of these NGOs, we can imagine that these victims can reach, before reaching Syrian justice, because it won't be tomorrow possible to sue the perpetrators in Syria, but at least reach European justice specialized in this issue. And we can imagine and we can believe and we can fight for investigation with international fair trial standards in order to establish the truth and to determine the alleged perpetrators of these very serious crimes.
You mentioned those NGOs, and we saw them as some survivors from their own ordeals who have even now turned into NGO work. Some, though, still saying that they are scared to return to Syria. Dana, when you interviewed them in Turkey, did you get the sense that there was a bit of hope now under the new regime that things were changing and that they could return and fulfill their duty to society on that level?
On a national level, new authorities were speaking about, like crimes that happened under the Assad regime, but not a lot of talk and not a lot of work has been done towards the sexual assaults and the sexual violence in Syria. And this is why as we heard Hala speaking, the activist in Turkey, that was insisting on how it is important for survivors today to be part of this process of justice, not only to get commissions that they don't represent survivors as well. This is why she insists on including the survivors to be part of this social and justice process, because at this moment, these women, they don't feel that their rights have been given back to them, and they need to be recompensated as well, and to have their rights back. As Clémence was saying, they need assistance, medical, financial, they need assistance on very different levels. And unfortunately, a lot of women, the women that we have met either in Turkey or in Syria, they don't feel safe enough today to speak up about this, and they see that justice for them is not really, or let's say it's a long journey yet.
Is it justice delayed or justice denied? Do we feel that the wheels of motion can change under Hayat Tahrir al-Sham?
This is a very tough question to answer to, because as the survivors said, even justice for each one of them is very different from one another. One of the survivors, Asma, was saying about her ability, for example, to forgive the perpetrators, while others, they don't share the same point of view. We have witnessed in Syria as well in the last 10 months since the fall of the regime in December, a lot of acts of revenge and killings, unofficial killings that are happening all over the country. And this is what the lawyer, for example, Ali Al-Zir, the Syrian lawyer, was talking about and was alarming. But because this is an alarming situation, because here now in Syria, if we don't really see perpetrators being judged and being really responsible, held responsible and accountable for what they have been doing, a lot of acts of revenge will be happening in the society.
Dana, thank you so much. Clémence, in terms of those acts of revenge, there are survivors who will certainly be wanting to commit those, but nonetheless, their testimonies come first. Let's just talk about that. Will those testimonies alone hold up in international courts? Is that enough to get those perpetrators and hold them to justice?
And international courts, I don't know yet. However, European national justice have this mechanism, legal mechanism, that can perfectly enable victims to become civil parties and to have rights within this national procedure, dealing with international crimes, dealing with Syrian victims and Syrian perpetrators. But we have these tools now in some states around the world, and the last 12 years prove that this justice are working. So I think it's the only way in the end to prevent personal revenge and a new state of impunity would be to get access to justice in general. And I think in the short term, it's more national justice. And maybe at some point, an international hybrid court to judge all the crimes committed by the Assad regime, or the best goal would be to have Syrian justice. But that will be in maybe 5 to 10 years minimum, because you have to rebuild all a legal system that has been destroyed. So you have to educate lawyers, magistrates, to rebuild indeed courts edifice. So it's a very, very long journey. And I think in the meantime, European justice and French justice should be a very good opportunity for this victim to be out of this double punishment status.
A double punishment status, which is still contesting with that taboo. Just a final word, Dana, in terms of the survivors, have you managed to just get in touch with them since? Was there just a message that they wanted to deliver after this documentary?
I guess a lot of survivors, they just wanted to speak up in order to get their maybe rights one day, maybe to speak up for the justice. A lot of work with the survivors is still needed to be accomplished and to be done with. Some of the women see this work is very important, because that might as well encourage other women to speak up about what they have been through.
On that very important note, Dana Albos, thank you so much. And again, really excellent work on just shedding light on what happened there in those prisons under Bashar al-Assad. And thank you so much to Clémence Witt for just taking us through the legal processes as well here on set, and what instruments are available to those who have suffered under the regime. That's it for now on The World